So I'm here today with Ayana. She's a bodybuilder, physique athlete, or former athlete. She is coached by Dr. Sarah Zaldivar, and I wanted to bring her on today to talk about her diet and specifically how it applies to her body physique goals. There aren't many of us in this community online, so I've been asked by my audience to bring people like this on. So here we are. Anyway, so my first question is, how did you get into the carnivore diet?
I would have to say a friend of mine, Scott Kramer, he was helping me with my weight loss back in 2020. And so I had kind of lost my way and gained some weight. And in about around 2018, 2019, I just stopped my habits, right? So during COVID, I lost the 50 pounds. And at the end of it, I was like, okay, I want to really get lean. And he had just started the carnivore diet. And he's like, you should try this. He goes, you're already very low carb, because I've always been attracted to that because it just makes me feel good regardless. So he's like, you should just do carnivore. And that's how I started. And then I listened to Sean Baker's interview and I started getting into the groups and I started it and I loved it. Digestion was awesome. It was I didn't have the little devil on my back, really craving so many carbs like I usually do. So those are the first two things I noticed, and I have stuck with it off and on ever since. So that's really how I got introduced to it.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I could relate to that myself. Being a larger individual like a bodybuilder, we were eating a lot more food than the average person. So the first thing you notice when you stick to this diet, and it might even be immediately, your digestion will improve. And everyone I speak to, that's like the first thing they say. My digestion's so much better, my cravings are much less, all that sort of thing. Um,
Yeah.
so when COVID hit and the whole world went into lockdown, how did you cope with that? So did you lose weight, gain weight, and did it affect your training at all?
You know what? Honestly, I saw that as an opportunity to restore my habits because I can't, like I said, 2018, 2019, my weight itched back up and I was not happy in my own body. So 2020 hit and we were working from home. And yes, the gyms were closed, but I saw it as an opportunity to get back on track. And so I just cleaned everything up and I started working out consistently. I had started pre shutdown with the working out consistently again, but it really made a difference when I had all that free time. So I know a lot of people gained weight during COVID, but I lost during the shutdown. And it was just that prime opportunity. Yeah, the gyms were closed for a solid 3 months. And I was literally at the front door in May of 2020 when they opened them up again. I was like in the line waiting to get into the gym.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't bear the thought of having even a day off my usual schedule from training. So at the time, I was living with my brother, and we would go on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Amazon, just search online for all these like training equipment pieces, and we spent a bit of money, but we sort of looked back and thought, yeah, well, it's a good investment because now he has a whole gym at his place in his garage, fully equipped with everything you could ever need as a like a weightlifter. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And the one thing I forgot to mention is my husband, he's not a fan of going to the gyms anyways, right? He likes to work out at home. So we actually had a squat rack and some dumbbells. And so I was able to keep up with my workouts the best I could in the 3 months that all gyms were closed. So that did help.
yeah, that's pretty cool. We've all had to deal with what we've got at home basically and makeshift it. Some of us have better equipment than others. I just feel bad for the people at home that just have to do push-ups off the sofa and squats and things off their the bedroom floors and stuff. So yeah. So my next question is about your competitive history. So when did you start competing, and what was it that drove you to do that?
Started competing actually in my early 30s, and so around 2010, and I did it for 4 years. But I have always been a fan of bodybuilding since I was a teenager. So my dad, my brother, my uncles, they were all bodybuilders. My dad was more calisthenics, my brother was more power lifter. And then my uncles were like a combination of bodybuilding power lifter. So I've always been surrounded by it. And in the 90s, when I was a teenager, um, I just loved like Monica Brandt, Corey Everson, people like that. And I just got all the magazines and I was just obsessed. I really loved watching them and watching them change their bodies and understanding that you have the power to do that. So I got into the gym around 16, 17, and I was hooked. Uh, After I got married, I was married, new career, starting my master's program. So I kind of like, I was there in and out, but not as consistent as I was before. But once I started getting consistent again in my later 20s, I was hooked and it hasn't stopped since then. So I was like, well, I'm here all the time working out. And a trainer that I knew at the time actually said that. He's like, you're always here, you're training. He's like, you should compete. They're beginning the bikini division. And I started looking up that. And I was like, ooh, I can see myself doing that. Okay. And so I leaned out. Thank goodness I naturally have good muscle. However, I'm always trying to build. Anyways, I leaned out for a few months and I got on stage. And after that, I was hooked.
Wow. Yeah. It's everyone gets the bug, it seems, in bodybuilding. I don't know many bodybuilders that just compete once and that's it. There's always that ongoing
I know.
desire to progress, you know?
And well, and then for me, I've always been a person who strives to have discipline because I naturally don't I never saw myself as disciplined as I always wanted to be. So even though, like, not bragging, but I have a few master's degrees in my field, that I have the capability of starting something and finishing it. The thing that always bothered me that I wasn't as disciplined in enough was my health and fitness. And it was so ironic because I've just been obsessed with that my whole life. So I was always like, oh, I'm not at my fullest potential. And so once I started competing, that instilled in me discipline that I carry on to this day. Like, there's no other discipline that you have to adapt to, or to, I'm sorry, to have, than to get ready to be on stage. It's another level.
Sure, yeah. So with your training, you've been training for a long time now. So how has that changed over time? Like, what would you do, say, when you first started versus now?
Question. When I started training specifically for lots of volume, I still train with lots of volume, but I would have just several supersets, right? I would start off with like squats and I would superset lunges in there. And I would have like 4 or 5 exercises of supersets. And even when I was doing upper body, the more plyometrics, right? But now I've learned so much over the years. I always warm up, of course, like stairs for 10 minutes, or I just do a warm up exercise like hamstring curls if I'm going to do glutes and hamstrings, right? Something to activate the muscle I want to concentrate on. I do a warm up set of that, and then I go into my compound movement. So my compound movement would maybe be a hip thrust or a deadlift if I'm doing that, right? And I'll do like 4 to 6 sets, pyramid sets. I gradually go up in weight, decrease in reps. After that, then I'll do more of my accessory movements. And with those, the muscle. And I usually do supersets with that as well. Not with the compound movements, but after the compound movement and I go into my accessory work, I might do like glute extensions and superset with, I don't know, plie squats, right? And so I'll do like 3 or 4 of those types of exercises after my compound movement. And yeah, and then after that, I'll stretch. But yeah, so I've just learned that I still love the volume and I'm still trying to push as much weight as I can and progressively overload week by week, even if it's just by 1 rep or by increasing 5 pounds. I love having a good solid compound movement at the beginning of my workout because that's where I'm like, okay, I did 150 glute bridge last week. I want to do 155 this week. Those are the moves I really focus on.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when I first started training, I'd have to do a lot of pre-exhaust movements. So, for example, if it's a chest workout, I'll be doing a pec deck or a cable fly. That'll move on to a compound. So at that point in my training experience, I couldn't actually activate the muscle, so I needed to do all the warm up stuff first. But now, as an advanced lifter, I can do what you do. So I can focus on the heavy compound exercise, whatever it is. It might be an incline chest press, then move towards the isolation sort of stuff. So there's a lot of nuance to training depending on your level. And I spoke with Dr. Sarah Zaldivar the other day about that, about a few weeks ago actually, and yeah, she sort of had the same idea as me. So you almost have to learn the movement. And would you agree with that?
You have to, and I'm telling you, really being in tune with your body is so important because, like, for instance, I mean, I train upper body, but I'm just using the glute bridge machine as an example, like for my compound movement. The way you know, core tight, chest up, and I usually tuck under um, before I lift with my glutes. And just like if I'm just a hair off with how my back is positioned or where I'm resting my upper back on the pad, if it's just a little bit off, I stop and readjust because, you know, as bodybuilders, we don't want to get injured. And from my injuries, actually, I have learned to have the best form. But yeah, just really being in tune with your body, no matter what you're doing, and adjusting accordingly. It just makes your lifts that much better and more fun, and you can do more.
That's a really good point as well. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard someone speak about that on the internet. And that's when you talk about um, lifting the weight. Then you get to a point where, say, it's a heavy bench press, one side's stronger than the other. Well, you know, it could be that your shoulders out and you're flaring your lat more on one side. That could be why. So you have to readjust your training, and it doesn't matter if you just stop the set after 3 reps. You better have stopping the set after 3 reps, not screwing up your body. Give it another minute or two, rest a little bit, then get back to it and make sure your body's in line and everything's in sync because that's going to prevent injuries, just like you said. Mm.
Exactly, because I think that form form is the most important. And as a young girl, I was in ballet, and that was my first exposure to really being in control of your body. And it taught me so much. And when I started weightlifting at 16 and 17, I carried a lot of those things over because, and my brother also taught me a lot because he's a stickler on form. Form is so much, so important.
Yeah, brilliant. So, do you use any other techniques with your training? So, I know you focus on, working on your compound movements and isolating things after that. So, are you using things like drop sets, rest pause, anything like that?
Mention that. Especially yes, I do. So I will do how do I say it? Like, especially with my isolation movements, okay? I will do 1.5 reps a lot of times. Like I'll go, like say if I'm doing a plie squat, I'll go all the way down, and then up halfway and back down and then all the way up. All right. So those 1.5 reps really will isolate the glutes for me. It'll create tension where I want. And so I'll do things like that. Rest pause, where I'll, say hamstring curl, I'll curl down, pause, and then back up. And just all sorts of things just to create that tension. A lot of times I'll use the bands. I can't, my mind is going blank, but the bands, I'll wrap it around my legs when I'm doing squats or lunges to create that tension as well. So I'll do a lot of little things like that with my accessory, more isolation exercises, more with those versus my compound. Because, like, for instance, if it's upper body day and I'm doing my shoulder press, I'm concentrating on, increasing the weight or reps each week. So my form is very important. And I won't do those type of things with my compound movements, but I will with my isolation.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I don't do everything that you outlined, but it seems to be that a lot of people have issues activating certain muscle groups. So there might be women out there watching this video and they want to grow their glutes, but when they train their glutes, they're not activating much. That's where something like a 1.5 rep or using a band might be useful. So you have that proprioceptive conditioning to say, okay, this is my range of movement, and this is where my glutes become activated. So it lets you really focus in. I do the same as well when I'm doing. I'm trying to think now. With a side raise, I might actually hold my shoulder, bring it up, and actually imagine like the muscles getting shorter as I go up. So there's a lot of different things you can use to sort of target in on the muscle groups.
And even with split lunges, right? Um, I was working out with a friend a couple months ago. He's a trainer, and he had me set up with the bench to do split lunges. And the way he had me positioned, I didn't feel it in my glutes. It was all quads. And I'm very quad dominant. Okay. I don't need to work my quads. Like, literally once a week, I'm good. The other 2 leg days I have in the week are glute and hamstring focused. Right. So I was like, no, 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 I feel my quads. So I literally just readjusted. I think I leaned forward a little bit more in the split lunge, and then I felt my glutes. So for every person, it's going to be different. That's why it's really good to be in tune with your body. Where do you feel it? If you feel it mostly in quads and you're trying to work your hamstring and glutes, reposition until you feel that in the areas that you need to feel it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, I find the same. I'm not afraid to change my exercise sometimes if I need to. And I'll even change the order of them if I feel like it's not firing right today. I might come back to the same exercise later. Um, so my next question is also about training, and I was just wondering, like, roughly how many times a week are you training? And in each session, are you doing 10 sets, 15 sets, or more?
Yes, on average, I train 5 days a week, right? So I'll sandwich it with my leg days. So, like, for instance, Monday, I will do focus on glute and hamstrings. And then on Tuesday, it'll be shoulders and back. And then Wednesday will be quads with glutes. And then Thursday will be shoulders and back again. And then Friday will be glutes and hamstrings. Sometimes Friday I'll just do cardio, and then I'll do Saturday glutes and hamstrings. But it's 3 days legs, glutes focused, 2 days upper body. I really have to make sure I have a balance. So on the shoulder back day, I'm concentrating more on my shoulders than I am my back. I'll hit a couple of back movements, but my shoulders need to grow. So my focus is that. So your question about how many sets. So I'll have a warm up set, and no matter what I'm working on, I'll do a warm up set. If it is shoulder, I'll do like a rear delt warm up, because that's where I'm usually trying to target mostly. Whatever it may be, 3 sets of that, right? Just to warm it up, and then I'll go into my compound movement. Most of the time, it's 4 to 6 reps, because I usually include a warm up set with that, a couple of working sets, and then my heavy set, right? Trying to push that weight each time. And then I'll go into probably 3 different isolation movements, but they're usually supersets. So with that, it's usually 3 sets of something, right? But it's a superset, so it's usually 6 sets of whatever, right? So it's high volume. I love pyramid sets. I love supersets. It is high volume. I can't do the math right now, but after the warm up set and after my compound movement, that's when I get into the isolation work. And that isolation work is usually supersets. And it's usually, 3 and 3, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So I don't know the math, but that's usually what my workout includes. It is usually 45 minutes to 60 minutes because my rest period, I'll do a minute, 2 minutes for the compound movements. But the isolation work where I'm supersetting, different exercises to concentrate on certain muscles, it's like a minute
Yeah.
rest.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people undervalue the practical use of a good warm up. So, I mean, I warm up, Ayana warms up, Eddie Hall warms up, Phil Heath warms up, Jay Cutler warms up, Ronnie Coleman, all these people much more advanced than us, they all do it. So there's obviously something to it. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or advanced, it does apply to all of us. And the idea that we can go into the gym and do an all-out set straight from the start, it's not a good idea, to be honest. Um, so I have a question about your coaching with Dr. Zaldivar. So I've had the opportunity to speak to her quite a few times, and she really knows her stuff. I advise anyone to go and follow her if you get the chance to after this video and check out her content. So, what made you choose Sarah as a coach?
Okay, so in the carnivore space, there's just a lot of rules that I've never subscribed to. I love carnivore because, well, I'm drawn to it, like I said earlier, because of my addiction to sugar and carbs. I do feel that's a real thing. And as well as what we talked about, digestion. I have my reasons, right? So, but there's just certain dogma that I'm like, I've never subscribed to. Okay. Calories do matter. They are not the be all end all, but they do matter. Exercise is important for so many things, right? That should be incorporated. Even we're bodybuilders, but even if you're not, you need to move every day, right? So the more I started listening to her, I don't know how, the YouTube world, I think I just got to her page somehow. Maybe she was a guest on something, I don't know. Um, but the more I started listening to her, I was like, oh my goodness, everything that she was saying, I connected to. I was like, wow. Like, oh, Cole, her on his channel. So just resonated with me. So that's why I sought her out, because I was just so in alignment with what she was talking about. Basically, common sense, just common sense stuff. Yeah, carnivore diet is the perfect human diet. Keto, some people believe as well. But if you are trying to lose weight, energy that you intake is so important. And also what you're doing with your body is so important. So that matters. It's not just all hormones. Hormones play a part in it. But the more fat on your body, the more detrimental it's going to be to heal from whatever hormone imbalances that you have as well. So that in a nutshell is why I resonate with her, because I was just like, okay, everything you say, I'm like 100% right on target with. And that's why I sought her out.
Yeah, I mean, Sarah has a lot of qualities that would make her a good coach. I mean, she listens to people, she's well thought out, and she has a common sense approach. A lot of people try to reinvent the wheel and change everything in someone's diet, but I think she's got some really good practical takes on things and how to approach someone when doing a programming sort of thing. Um, so, how is her coaching benefiting you, and what would you advise for future clients looking to hire experts like myself or Dr. Sarah?
The last part, but the first part I'll answer right away is what I see that's so beneficial from her way of coaching is that she really prioritizes that communication. She takes time, like you said, to listen to what you're already doing. Hey, let's tweak this and this. So it's realistic for you to do it. Also optimizes on seeing those results, that momentum, because you want that in the beginning and you want to see those results. And today she was just saying on an interview that I was watching, like if your goal is weight loss, right? If you're trying to see those results, okay, you're not going to lose weight every week. But after a couple weeks, if you're not seeing something, it's time to really take a dive and see what you're tracking and kind of navigate what's going on. Some people say like, oh, I've been stalled for like 3 months. I'm like, so I like that she focuses in on momentum. And a lot of people are against cardio. Listen, when I was maintaining summer and just building muscle, I was not doing cardio. I was just maybe doing 15 minutes here and there, 30 minutes maybe. But when you're trying to, decrease your body fat, that's going to help. And then you can eat more food. So I love the fact that she does incorporate cardio because I think it's necessary, because I like to be ready early. And it also allows for more food. So that momentum that she likes to create with her clients is what I really resonated with.
Yeah, I wish that works for me. When I include cardio, I just feel much more hungry and I eat more. It's like say I did 500 calories on the elliptical or whatever it was. I'd then feel the hunger and appetite to do way more food than that. So for me, it's counterintuitive for myself, but I can understand if you're someone that isn't otherwise active, how it could be beneficial. So it is, it does account towards like your energy expenditure, and it can make you fitter as well, which might help your workouts.
You know what? Hey, that's me. I don't know how it. I'm sure every individual it's different. For me, we talked and having that energy expenditure, I'm okay with, especially because I like to eat. I don't like to not have food. So I'm like my cut is starting at 1,700 calories, whereas before when I would ever have to diet, it would start lower than that. So for me, that's higher. But I'm also expending a lot of energy. So I don't know. It hasn't created like a huge hunger for me. But that is, I'm very satisfied on what I'm eating, especially carnivore food. Protein and fat, it makes you full.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this week I'm just doing beef and lamb, and I've looked at what I'm going to eat for the rest of the day, and I've had 2 meals today. I have four, I believe, and I feel like I don't want to eat again. So it's amazing how when you get nutrient dense food in, your body doesn't need as much, so you can function without all the extra rubbish. So how can people find you online if you want to be found?
Instagram, I'm at Keto Fit Vegas. And that is where I'm at most of the time. And then I'm starting to post YouTube, but it's just in its very baby stages. I have no idea what I'm doing. But Ayana Fuentes on there. So those are the two places. Oh, I'm also on TikTok. Ayana Fuentes one, but I think I might change it to Keto Fit Vegas. But yes, but Keto Fit Vegas on Instagram, and it'll take you to all those other things.
Perfect. Thanks very much for your time today, and I appreciate you coming on.